Welcome to another episode of Conduct Detrimental. Dan Lust, joined by Michael Xavier Kravchenko. Mike, it's been a minute. You miss me?
It's been some weeks. Yeah, of course. No, it's always nice to text back and forth, but it's different when you see and get to spend some time on the podcast, you know?
Sure. You and I talk a lot, so it's not like I have not missed you, but our audience missed us. We recorded right before the madness of March started, so it's a pretty decent break, but it's all good. I was going to record last week. You can hear my voice is a little bit hoarse, but we're basically back at capacity. Okay, so last podcast, I was joking, Mike. I have told my friends and family to watch the Jim Thorpe documentary. I thought it was very good, like very, very good. And my friends and family that I've told about it, that I've watched it, they said, Dan, it's excellent. One of the greatest documentaries I've ever seen. Michael, I promised free merch to anybody that watched the Jim Thorpe documentary.
No comments.
I didn't get any texts. I didn't get any messages unless they're caught in my spam somewhere. That was a gimme. That was a freebie. And you get to watch a great documentary. You get to have your cake and eat it too. Deal's off. Deal's rescinded. It's off. It's gone.
It's too much going on. We had the World Baseball Classic, March Madness happening, free agent.
So you didn't watch it either, Mike. You didn't watch it either?
No, not yet.
A2 Brute. Now this I'm not recommending. We have some good topics today, but I was like messing around. My YouTube algorithm is it's gotten pretty smart. They like these weird sports documentaries. So I turned on it's like the history. It was like somehow the History Channel had a documentary on YouTube. Mike, what if I told you the title of this was Rome's Champion Chariot Racer?
Okay, I like that. That seems interesting.
Sounds pretty good, right? And you turn it on, he's like, the LeBron James of chariot racing, the Michael Jordan, the Babe Ruth of chariot racing. Mike, it was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. It was not. It was the equivalent of like he's cited a couple times in people's journals and stuff, like, and what he probably was this. He probably never lost a race. And I'm like, what am I watching here? Okay, just because the guy raced in like 75 AD, he wasn't LeBron, he wasn't Michael Jordan. He just was like a guy. So I was disappointed. So I don't always recommend documentaries. I watch bad ones. That, Mike, was a horrendous one. Sorry to the chariot racers out there. In any event, Mike, are you ready to get into this?
Yeah, I think we got some good ones.
Okay. Prediction markets. We're going to do a little bit Kalshi, a little bit Polymarket. We're going to cover them. We talked a little bit about them last time. I know my students have been asking about them. We have a good excuse to talk about them today with some new partnerships and some new lawsuits. A little good and bad. Okay. The other side, today is the opening day of March Madness. We're recording this on March 19th. We're in the middle of March Madness, and we have a handful of not necessarily NIL topics, but some good stuff in college. And then obviously we'll give you, we have not recorded. I did we'll talk about it, but we're going to talk a little bit about the White House Roundtable and some of the latest kind of hurdles in NIL at the back end. Okay, Mike, reminder, podcast sponsored by Themis Bar Review. They're great. They're fantastic. If they want to give us, if Themis wants to give us like a product that we can really pump out, like I hear they have a lot of big things in the works, but like when they want to give us the full marketing range, Mike, they want to tell us that they want to get into like CDs and karaoke. Like we'll promote anything that Themis does because we love Themis. So if you're thinking about who you want to go to for bar prep, you should continue to think Themis. We've been doing these reads for a number of years. Most of our people, when we meet them in person, they're Themis people. So love to see that. Mike, what's the update on the writing competition before we get into all of it here?
Yeah, no, everything's been submitted. Grading has been finalized as of early this week, and we'll be reaching out to the winners and eventually getting everything published and shared, and some, I guess, merch, like we mentioned, heading their way. Nice plaque. It'll be good. It'll be the writing competition. It was great. I think we mentioned last time. Appreciate everyone that submitted, that participated this year. Another great turnout of submissions and a lot of great work. So very excited to announce the winners, reach out to the winners. And yeah, we appreciate another great year of the writing competition.
All good stuff, Mike. Okay. let's jump right into it. So we've been waiting for an opportunity to cover it. In my, I think we talked about last podcast. Mike and I are working on for the International Arena League. Mike in a lovely, very fancy externship role, doing some, and jokes aside, some heavy stuff. Mike, fair, doing getting some good experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I try to listen to podcast interviews with different commissioners and different interviews. Just, you gotta learn the walk the walk, talk the talk, all the good stuff. So I listened to an interview with Gary Bettman maybe a week or two ago. Gary Bettman, NHL commissioner. He's on the Sports Business Journal podcast, and he's asked about their recent deal with Polymarket. And the host essentially says, "I'm surprised you did a deal with Polymarket. They're an unregulated vendor, and I'm surprised you did that." And Bettman stops him, and he says, whoa. They're not unregulated. They're regulated like a financial market. And, we thought this was a good idea. We thought that, they're going to put lines up regardless of whether, we authorize them to or not. So now, we can advise them on lines. We can provide information. We could make sure it's a safer platform. Sure. Yes, Gary. Mike, do we think the NHL got the bag from Polymarket?
I would guess so.
A large bag. That large bag seems to have been shared with the MLS. I watch a lot of UFC. They're everywhere. Whatchamacallit? What's the other? Oh, Major League Baseball today has announced a partnership in some way, shape, or form with Polymarket. And then that goes back to last week, Mike. Sometimes it's good that we don't have podcasts because I'm going to give you guys losing bets. Sometimes I have winning bets. Last week I would have had a losing bet. I was all in. Mike, I watched a great movie, Marty Supreme. Did you see Marty Supreme?
No, not yet. That's on the list, and another one that's been added.
Sure, it's right next to the Jim Thorpe documentary.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. So I watched that, and I'm like, Timothy Chalamet was incredible in this movie. He should be winning Best Actor. And then I read a lot about this. I'm sure maybe you've heard about it, but he had said some comment about the ballet and the operas, and the odds went down. And I'm like, still think he should be winning Best Actor. So in any of them, I put a large wager on Kalshi for him to win, for the movie to win an award, not to get shut out, which evidently they did, but we got our money in good. And while this bet was pending, Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary, who actually is in the movie. Mike, did you know Mr. Wonderful's in the movie?
I did not.
Not only is he in the movie, and we can say whatever we want if we like him, don't like him, he's incredible in the movie. Like incredible. Yeah, now you're going to watch the movie. Sure. Mr. Wonderful is also in the Jim Thorpe documentary, so you should watch that too.
Okay? Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, with his Pokemon card or whatever he's got across his neck now.
So he shows up at the red carpet and he goes, "I just placed a bet on Kalshi for $1,000 for Timothy Chalamet to win Best Actor." Do we think that likely Kalshi was paying him some amount of money to say that?
Maybe, yeah. That specific line, I don't know, but.
Probably. So the point being, all these prediction apps, and I don't want to say all, but the main two, Polymarket and Kalshi, those are the two that you should be knowing. They're everywhere. It's starting to get a little bit reminiscent of the FanDuel DraftKings saga after Pass But Passed, almost 10 years ago. So that being said, DraftKings and FanDuel did not necessarily have this issue. Once the licensing came in, right, there certainly was issue about game of chance, game of skill back in the DFS days with FanDuel and DraftKings. We're way past that. DraftKings and FanDuel have a license to operate in the states that they're in. They are behemoths, but they're licensed behemoths. Then there are a host of other apps or websites that are not necessarily in clear black and white territory because they operate without a license. I'm not going to go and shout 100 names out, but you can call them out. We've had several celebrities in clients that we work for turn down deals with some of these kind of, I'll put them in quotes, gray market apps. They're not offshore apps. They're not operating through Antigua. They're just apps that are operating in some states but not other states. Now, Mike, this is where I stop talking and I take a sip of water because my throat is killing me. Can you inform our listeners as to what has happened as of late with Kalshi?
Yeah, so as of this week, a lot has been developing over the last number of months. Our favorite former host, Dan Wallach, has actually been at the forefront of all this, so we'll definitely have to have him share some expertise on this soon. But this escalation, I think, this week on March 17th is a big one. There's now more than 20 civil lawsuits over Kalshi's legal status, Arizona becoming the first state to actually file criminal charges against Kalshi. So there's a 20-count criminal complaint filed in Maricopa County. It's alleging that Kalshi accepted bets from Arizona residents on professional and college sporting contests. So proposition bets on individual player performance that we've talked about and even shared, some of our picks on the show before. And so whether the SAVE Act would become law and 4 separate election-related wagers, including the 2028 presidential race, as well as 3 2026 Arizona state races. So Arizona has taken this kind of to that next level that no other states have. We've had 11 states issue cease and desist letters or initiate some sort of enforcement actions against multiple prediction market operators, not just Kalshi, but here we are with Arizona actually taking it to the criminal level. Now, of course, the charges are misdemeanors, but that should not at all, at least to me, minimize the significance of this. This could be very significant, especially in the state of Arizona for Kalshi. I mean, it could include asset forfeiture, possibility of jail time for some executives, depending on how far this continues. And really, criminal charges finally give prosecutors kind of that, I think, power that the civil side didn't for them for so long, and a lot of these months leading up to this. So it's going to be interesting. I think one of the biggest parts of this is that on March 12th, so 5 days prior to Arizona actually filing the criminal charges, Kalshi preemptively sued Arizona in federal court for trying to block enforcement. And there's a lot of moving parts to this that make it a little interesting on the Kalshi end, but a Trump-appointed federal judge denied the temporary restraining order and ordered Kalshi to justify why the case actually even belongs in federal court at all. And there's a lot of, like I said, moving arms to that, but there's that race. They're like racing to the courthouse here on both sides that has worked for Kalshi elsewhere, but it's seemingly failing here in Arizona. So it's going to be interesting, where this is going to land, jurisdictionally, and then just in general, if other states follow suit, on the criminal side of things, because so far what Arizona is alleging is something that has been seemingly going on kind of across the entire country with Kalshi. So, it's going to be, I think, a significant turning point here in the Kalshi fight, or just the prediction market fight as a whole. And no matter how big or mainstream this gets, there's a lot of money in prediction markets. So it's going to really ultimately rise or fall based on these court cases. And, like I mentioned, Dan Wallach has been at the forefront of this, and I definitely want to shout him out tenfold, on the Twitter side of things.
Dan is welcome to come back to the podcast whenever he's ready, but he's fighting a war with Kalshi. So just on the obvious side, and Mike, you explained that pretty well, right? You have a battle for the courthouse, right? You have the CFTC Chairman Michael Seelig now kind of stepping up to the bat. This is a jurisdictional dispute and entirely inappropriate as a criminal prosecution. CFTC is watching this closely and evaluating its options. Okay, that's the legal side. If you're on Kalshi and you're on FanDuel, right, or Polymarket's a little different. Right now, you had to go on. You have to sign up for a wait list, and even when you get on the app, it's very watered down. It's a longer story that we're not necessarily here to tell, but there are some markets that are offered on those apps, like for example, will Timothy Chalamet win Best Actor? That's not available on, most. I want to probably say it's not available on DraftKings, FanDuel, anywhere. There are some states that you can wager on, like things like MVP or Rookie of the Year. You can't do that in New York, where Mike and I are based. But those are, I'm putting in quotes, events that are information-based events. So the stock market itself, like a financial market, generally is traded on information. There's not who will win the game, right? So if you go on a Kalshi, it has a mix of those two offerings, right? It has the traditional games that, like I'm on Kalshi, you can change the odds instead of being percent, instead of being out of $1 and being 65 cents, 35 cents, you could just convert that on the actual app to American odds, and you can get a money line that's plus 163 and a minus 136. Like you can just make it look like exactly like DraftKings and FanDuel. So like there's an obvious issue when you have FanDuel and DraftKings that are paying millions on millions on millions of dollars in state-based licensing, whether they would just be okay letting this fly. So, that's an inherent baked-in issue. And when those apps are also offering lines that are traditional sports lines, like, I don't know how that exact line requires FanDuel to have a specific license in the state, and then Kalshi could just get around it as a financial model, but also have like sports lines plus these event lines. So,
well, that's the thing too. Like,
yeah.
I was seeing that sports betting is, over 90% of the activity, even on
Right.
Kalshi. About 90% of its revenue is coming from sports betting. So, I think that DraftKings and FanDuel have a big, stick in this pile right now.
It's a very volatile market, but the story is not necessarily that Kalshi's getting in trouble. The story is that these leagues, as we led this with, have accepted so much money. Like if you turn on a UFC broadcast right now, like Polymarket is the title sponsor. You cannot go anywhere. And Dana's mentioning at press conferences. So it is somewhat odd, right? Like a league would take a chance on a like we do this all the time. We do diligence for our celebrities. Like we do not let them enter deals with stuff. Like it doesn't really make sense. So it not that I'm saying anything bad about Polymarket or Kalshi, and I'm not intending to. I do know some people at Polymarket. I don't know anyone in Kalshi, but like it's kind of like when we all looked at this as consumers and we looked at NFTs during the pandemic, it's like, why are these things so valuable? Like they're basically just like JPEGs. They're just like images. Like why are these things worth so much money? Like and we can ask the question as consumers, why is one licensed and one is unlicensed when you can basically just make them look exactly the same? So, for the time being, as we as consumers can use Kalshi and Polymarket freely, but yeah, this was as much as it was expected. It's very rare that these huge leagues would do these deals with Polymarket when we as casuals would, of course, like one of these states is going to ding this. Of course, the states are in bed with DraftKings and FanDuel. Like, of course, that doesn't make any sense. So when I was joking at the top, like the bag that was supplied to Major League Baseball or NHL or, like those bags must have been monstrous to like make them look the other way, right? Like it just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't really sync up. I don't know if there's much more to cover, but I think it's a really big touch point, and Arizona certainly won't be the only one. And Mike, as I understand it, it's not just Arizona that has issued cease and desist and tried to issue fines, but it is the first state to get to the criminal level. But we're early on in 2026. It wouldn't shock me if we had another state, or do we think that's not happening?
No, I think it's going to, but I think there's a lot politically involved and driven behind the scenes that will make this a lot more complicated on the state's end. When the Trump administration has seemingly embraced the prediction markets tremendously, and even Trump Jr. is strategic advisor with financial stakes in Kalshi's survival. So I think this is going to take quite a bit and be very politically driven. So yeah, we'll see and keep everybody posted, obviously, as it continues.
Okay, let's move on. So now we're officially in March. It's March Madness. Let's move over to college. Mike, Aiden Holloway. Can I give let me do this one. I think this is a fun one. Mike, can I handle this?
Sure.
My understanding of the event, he's pulled over. He's got a little bit of weed in the car. Not a tremendous amount of weed. Mike, Alabama is not does not allow weed. That's the main portion of the story. No
That's
weed. No leniency for weed. So this part you can tell me if I missed it, but my understanding is that subsequent to this traffic stop, like a couple days have gone by, and then they show up at his dorm room and they start doing a search of the dorm room and they find like pounds of weed, and subsequently taken off the team. He's got to go through the process and kicked out of school, all this good stuff. But Mike, did I get it right? Did I miss anything? Is there more nuance that our listeners should know?
I mean,
actually, wait. Before he says Aiden Holloway, central player on Alabama, a tremendous seed in the tournament. I was doing some research on him for March Madness purposes. They have a much worse record in terms of like advanced statistics with him off the court. So I faded Alabama hard as a result of the story. So, Mike, I will shut up. You're the expert. You drive the ship. I'm here to just be a co-pilot.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think that led to me choosing Hofstra at least. A little upset, one of the upsets in the first round over Alabama. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, he's Alabama's second leading scorer heading into March Madness. So 5-star recruit out of high school. This is definitely not something insignificant. But like you mentioned, I mean, obviously Alabama is not lenient in any capacity when it comes to marijuana, but we'll see. The first degree possession of marijuana is a Class C felony in Alabama and carries up to 10 years of prison time and a $15,000 fine. So if he's convicted, that's a possibility. One thing that I thought was interesting is that he was found with 2.1 pounds of marijuana, while anything above 2.2 pounds carries a drug trafficking charge. So
that's a coincidence. That's quite the coincidence.
Yeah, quite. I thought something to highlight. But yeah, they went through his apartment it was in a backpack, jacket pocket, suitcase, TV stand. There was even promethazine in a rolling tray. Like there was.
What prompts them to look in his apartment? Like just because I get pulled over for having a little weed in the car doesn't mean that you can go to my house afterwards and search my house. That's not a search incident to arrest. That has. Right? We don't have that part. When I was looking at the story when it came out, we didn't know this. We still don't know it.
Still don't know. Yeah, there's no. I don't know what happened between those two.
This might be the answer. Was he living in the campus dorms? Is that what it was?
I don't know. It says apartment. Let me look that up.
Maybe it was well, to the extent he's going to have less of an expectation of privacy if he's like in the campus's place as opposed to like a something where the school has the ability to go in. That's maybe we can. I'm sure if we dove into the Alabama school rules or the team rules, he might not have an expectation. So interesting carve out. So Mike, I agree with you. That's a very interesting point about the 2.1. I'm going to joke about it until I'm blue in the face. Unless your name is Stephon Diggs, you are not allowed to play games with a felony hanging over your head. So I'm happy that we got back on this trend. If you're charged with a felony, you're not playing in the tournament. I was listening to a March Madness preview, and they were like, well, he's definitely not playing in week 1 and like the first game of the tournament, but he might be back if they make it to the Sweet 16. And I'm like, how? How does a felony disappear in 7 days like that? It only happens to athletes. I don't really understand how that happens. And but, at least for the time being, we do not have a Stephon Diggs situation on our hands. Do we have any update on the Stephon Diggs stuff? The charge didn't go away, right? It's still very much an active felony.
No, yeah, it's active, and he is no longer on the Patriots. So we'll see.
Someone else's problem. Speaking of crimes involving people around basketball, Mike, anything else to do on Holloway before I move us over? I think we're good.
No, I think we're ready.
So we had the point shaving criminal saga that we covered a little bit on the show. There's not really that much on it. I take that back. There's a ton to talk about on it, but there is at least the first player or the first individual, I apologize, not a player, the first individual associated with this college sports betting scandal. And it was involved a number of schools across the Atlantic 10. An individual named Jalen Smith, who, according to reports, was the anchor for the college sports bribing point shaving scandal. He took a plea of guilty last week to involving counts of wire fraud and bribery and conspiracy. So at least if you believe the reports, he's the main linchpin. So if they get him to fall, I suspect others to follow. But we're going to find out a lot, and there might even be more names attached to this the more people are singing, so to speak. So, I think there was I remember we did a podcast right after the Cleveland Guardian saga broke, but I think the FBI wants to know how this information was traced, and they're going to use this to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So the indictment itself involved 39 players across 17 NCAA Division I programs. So we'll see if there's fallout from the actual universities themselves. I know among things that the NCAA doesn't have teeth on, gambling infractions is not one of them. They still very much want to police that. Mike, do you remember when we were getting very close to the NCAA allowing college athletes to be able to bet on whatever they wanted to? Got very close. Probably better that rule didn't pass.
Yeah, I would say so, especially from what we've been seeing over the last, 6 months of beyond the point shaving scandal. Just a lot of integrity questions.
Agreed. Mike, I think we're going at a good pace here. Are you anything else on point shaving?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. Okay. So I did something fun last week. Mike, ask me what I did.
What did you do, Dan?
I got an invite to go to speak at JP Morgan. They had what's called a college sports roundtable, and I think it was I think the White House roundtable was March 6th, and we did the JP Morgan College Sports Roundtable on March 11th. Involved a lot of. It wasn't like a town hall. It was more like bring a lot of PE guys in and let's talk about different issues. Let's talk about the risk assessment. And what was interesting, and we'll talk about the White House roundtable momentarily. But what's interesting is that a lot of private equity, they're kind of dipping their toe in the water. They're saying that this space is so risky right now. It's so hard to predict what's going to happen, be it on the union side. Will there be super conferences, television deals? There's just a lot of volatility. So PE is lying in wait. Right now we have these these $20 million caps per the House versus NCAA settlement for the schools to pay out a certain amount of money. At some point, I don't know when, but at some point those caps are going to be mooted, and PE money is going to go directly towards paying players. I don't know when that's going to happen. Certainly PE money is no shock to the system in terms of paying for facilities and whatnot. But I think the PE money is there once this space becomes either regulated or these, there's real salary caps they're kind of closer to revenue sharing. But there's a lot of PE interest, but I don't think anyone wants to put their foot in. What there was interest in, Mike, was emerging sports. So you and I can talk about that after. I'm not sure it's necessary for the podcast because it has nothing to do with college sports. But I think there's a lot of PE money being put into RAF, the wrestling company. There's the women's volleyball. So that was very interesting to hear that people were using that NIL, as much as PE money is not going into right now, like the NIL of it all, because all these big athletes with big followings need to go somewhere, like the Livy Dunn of it all. They're going pro in these kind of lower level leagues, but all these, graduating seniors have tremendous social media following. So startup leagues, which didn't really have any kind of quote unquote celebrities, they have these kind of baked in NIL guys. So it's interesting to hear the PE guys talk about where the money is going as a result of NIL. It's definitely going somewhere. And you're starting to see a good level of success on that front. So anyway, Mike, we're sitting talking about the roundtable. We're talking about the White House roundtable. Mike, are you familiar? And I don't want you to look this up. Are you generally familiar with the White House guest list for who spoke at that roundtable?
Outside of a Nick Saban? No,
Give me one.
I'm not
Give
sure.
me one or two. Give me one.
One other one? He was one of them?
Yeah. Anyone.
Ron DeSantis.
Sure. Ron DeSantis, Condoleezza Rice. You could tell me any number of big name, Jack Swarbrick, the old Notre Dame AD. There's a lot of big names involved. Mike, what was not involved, no one was invited, was a current NCAA player. None. So we've been trying to figure out, right, what's the path to uniformity in college sports? Is it federal legislation? Is it a union? It's either going to come or an antitrust exemption, right? Where is it going to come from? Is it going to come from an executive order with Trump, trying to get in the middle of all of it? The White House roundtable, Mike, doesn't involve any players. So that tells you that Trump is not leaning on the union side of it. Tells you that because of the NLRB decisions when Dartmouth and USC all of a sudden pulled their applications. Trump and the powers that be think it's going to happen without player involvement. So I have always been on the show and I've said unionization is a matter of when, not if. I'm not so sure about that anymore. I mean, something is going to happen to codify and unify the space. I always thought that would be the unionization piece. You can have both, right? You could have federal legislation and a union follow afterwards to try to curb that. But I think players are not being quick to act because, Mike, this is what we talked about, this lovely JP Morgan roundtable. like this is a good, like this unregulated period where athletes can kind of go on 1 year contracts. They can come and go, hey, I have a 2 year contract. Never mind, I'm leaving. Just kidding. And like it benefits the athletes. So I don't think athletes are that quick, especially in football and basketball. Maybe in the other non-revenue generating sports, maybe they would be quicker to do it. But then again, like those sports now have less leverage than they've ever had before, because these NIL payments are not subject to Title IX. So I think the biggest takeaway from the White House proceeding is that no players were invited. If no players are invited, Trump is telling you very clearly that this answer is going to come from legislation. So the union people out there, I don't know if you're buying stocks on, or if you're buying options, Mike, on Kalshi as to whether what will happen first. If you're at the Conduct Detrimental Resorts World Casino and that pops up, what will happen first? Federal legislation or a union? Like minus 226 federal legislation. You like that?
I mean, it seems like it's also a big focus for Trump. So yeah, I would imagine that executive order comes flying in here soon.
Sure, Michael. Sure. Okay, Mike, I'm ready. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm always ready.
What's the biggest story coming out of Nebraska today? Today, Mike. Not yesterday, not last week, today.
Well, today. Did something change today? You got me.
Yeah, what did Nebraska do on college sports? What did they do today?
No, of course. So the Nebraska, we've been talking about NIL, obviously.
Nope.
Then
nope.
Nebraska playing basketball? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, Nebraska, Mike. I believe, I know this is true. Nebraska Cornhuskers have never won a game in the NCAA tournament. Never.
Wow.
And they've never won one. You can check me on this. I'm 90% sure this is accurate. I believe they're the last Power 4 school to win a game. Hard stop.
I have no idea. Wow. I mean, I know they won today, but I didn't know that it was that significant.
I know it's the first time they've won, which is significant of itself, but then you tie it like, wow, how have they never won a game? They've made the tournament before. But yeah, I think it's the only Power 4 school, like the last. It's like the Jets, like who has the longest drought in all of pro sports, like But it was Nebraska wasn't just a drought; it had never happened. So yeah, congrats to Nebraska. So Mike, that's the biggest story in Nebraska today. But if we had recorded this yesterday, what would have been the biggest story in college sports in Nebraska?
Yeah, that's why you got me on that. But I just would have assumed a school like Nebraska had won before. But no, that's great. Yeah, there's a Nebraska NIL arbitration case going on right now. We mentioned the White House Roundtable and how they've been trying to regulate things. The College Sports Commission. We've discussed plenty on the podcast previously, so definitely recommend you go check out some of the older episodes to get an idea of really the background on the CSC and how we got here. But here we got 18 Nebraska football players. They entered into NIL deals through Playfly Sports, which was Nebraska's multimedia rights partner. They hold the multimedia rights with over 65 college athletic departments nationwide. There's a lot of different organizations in that same sphere, but the structure for Nebraska NIL was that Playfly purchased the athletes' NIL rights as well for future endorsement and commercial opportunities. So there were no specific deliverables that were actually identified in this contract at the time of signing, at least. So the combined value of the deals that the CSC actually ended up rejecting at the time exceeds over $1 million. And so right now, the type of arrangement that we have is like buying rights now and then activating them later. And, these type of sponsorship endorsement deals is very common. Working in college athletics previously, it's definitely a very common situation. But so here, though, like Nebraska is the first, I think, university to really go at the CSC for rejecting those deals that number of months ago they had initially denied. And so the CSC CEO, Brian Seeley, explained that it's not within the rules to actually submit a deal that doesn't have any information about what who the ultimate entity is that's going to activate the NIL. So basically who the sponsor is or what the student athletes' obligations are. There's been a lot of questions about that across college athletics to begin with NIL, is that there's a lot of question marks as to what is actually being exchanged in, name, image, and likeness, whether that's the student athletes' obligations or who the sponsor is, what they're doing, what they're also providing. So to get that NIL Go approval, contracts actually have to list specific deliverables. So whether it's a TV commercial, autograph signings, social media posts, similar to how we talk about Themis, having those things need to be there at time of submission. So that's how the CSC is viewing this, and basically saying that this is warehousing. It's disguised as pay for play, through, NIL, because they technically have $20.5 million of the revenue sharing cap. And this is, to the CSC, a way that these schools are kind of going around that. So right now, under the House settlement, athletes cannot sue in court. They have to go through the actual settlement's private arbitration process. So here's where we are right now with, Nebraska athletics, jointly funding, by the way, the players' legal representation. So it's going to be a huge start, a huge battle for Nebraska. But I think one that, is like, again, we talk about this a lot. There's a lot of transition and transformation within college sports. And this is, Nebraska leading the way with something that I imagine is going to continue to take place as the CSC rejects deals.
Okay, Mike, very well said. Let's talk about the CSC deal rejection. So CSC CEO, a guy by the name of Brian Seeley. It kind of was a bang bang. I think they were within maybe a couple days of each other. So we have this Nebraska CSC, the commencement. Mike, I have that as March 10th. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah.
So we have, and I obviously have been dealing with the CSC for my own clients, and they're very slow. They're very, monotonous. And, at least as I read the rules, the goal of CSC seemed to be, how do I phrase this? They want to eliminate the collectives. They want to eliminate third parties. They want to eliminate associate entities. Okay, like those are goals. I do think it is becoming very hard for a player to get a deal approved because of all these guardrails. Like I originally thought the function of CSC was like, hey, let's put some transparency on these contracts, right? Like we have a $20 million cap, and it's not 20, but it's give or take. The number goes up each year, but it's just easier to explain as $20 million that can come from the school. Got it. Those have to be transparent. We have to know who's getting that money. Now, the quote unquote third party deals are in theory uncapped. You get as much money as you want from third parties, and the schools following the House at NCAA, there was a movement to have some level of transparency over the third party marketing deals. Okay. Transparency. You put them through, you're required to put the contracts through CSC. They can look at them. They can create a portfolio on what amounts to fair market value, which is a requirement under College Sports Commission and the House case. Okay. But if deals are being rejected because, as Nebraska players argue, for this kind of warehousing element, or there's some other stuff in the CSC that not necessarily relevant here, but like you have to be a deal facilitator, but you can't be an associated entity. Like, okay, are we trying to create transparency around how much these players are making and really policing fair market value, or are we trying to outlaw certain actors from being involved in the space? So, that's the question. And I'm not, I think it's public enough. Like, there's been a lot of people kind of poking around the CSC in addition to Nebraska, whether there are going to be more cases around the country, because CSC they were put in place to in theory create some more transparency. But like right now in March Madness, Mike, we're going to have, and I'm going to make up a number, 5 people that we've never heard of right now are going to go viral, right, during March Madness, like Doug Edert, or who's that guy from McNeese State, the mascot,
manager, Amir Khan.
Yeah, like he's not a student athlete, so it's a little bit different. But like those players are going to have virality. They're going to have a 1 or 2 week window where people are going to care about them, and then they're gone. Like Doug Edert is like completely irrelevant. He went to St. Peter's. He was relevant with his mustache for a little bit, did a quick deal with Buffalo Wild Wings and made some money. I think it was Buffalo Wild Wings. And then, like, he's irrelevant. Like, he's not playing in the pros. I think I saw a clip of him playing in some league of some sort. You can fact check me on that. But like that, you are costing players money if you're slowing down these deals to a crawl. So whether it's Nebraska or there's a class action exposure, I'm aware that there's going to be some litigation. So or some more arbitration. Mike, I was on I'm only laughing. I was on a call with some arbitrators, we'll say recently, like an arbitration company. And I was trying to explain to them, like, you need to ramp up your college sports offering. Like, you need some more hard-hitting college sports arbitrators. You can't see on the video, but I'm pointing at myself. Like, you need some real guys here. Like, these are going to get really fast, really quickly. I had done an arbitration recently that was a heavy sports case. We had like one arbitrator that was offered to us that knew anything about sports. And thank God me and the other side both agreed that like this is the person we should use. But in their bio, they had like chair of a state sports law group. It doesn't matter. And I said, like, there's going to be a run on these. We're already starting to see them. I'm doing an article for the New York Law Journal that should come out, I don't know, probably the next time we record. Like, there's starting to be some litigation events, some arbitration events. Like, get ready, Mike, because this is a real problem. And I don't I don't like root for anyone's demise, but like if kids are really losing out on this virality, the fun part about March Madness, because these deals are getting hung up for like 90 days, like why? Why are they being hung up? Like if the point is transparency, just record them and put them through. We really worry about it. Mike, I don't have anything else on that. My voice is about to die. You have anything else on this or anything else?
No, I just think CSC is in a tough spot right now. I think they have, I read the other day on LinkedIn, they have 15 employees. I know it's under 20, under 30, so not surprised.
I'm with you. Okay, Mike, all good. Let's end it here. Always good to see you. Shout out to Themis. Shout out to those that did the writing competition. And shout out to Jim Thorpe. You guys should watch the documentary. Potentially, if I like you, we might get you some merch. But I was very disappointed in our audience. No one watched the Jim Thorpe documentary. Guy's a legend. He's the greatest athlete in the history of humanity. Facts. Okay. That's it. I'm disappointed. You guys all let me down. Okay, Mike, ready to end it? Ready to do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Arizona, Mike. Arizona for the ship. That's the bet, Mike. Arizona.
I have Purdue. I think it's the year of Indiana.
You have Arizona too? Indiana.
I have Purdue. I'm
Indiana's
saying it's the year of the state of Indiana.
Sure. Who's in the tournament from Indiana that you think's going to win?
Purdue. That's what I'm saying. Purdue.
Oh, I missed you. Purdue. Sure. Shout out to Zach Eady. Big fan of the podcast. Probably, but not confirmed. Okay, let us end it here. We'll see you next time on another episode of Conduct Detrimental.